Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are returning, I guess you could say returning. We're going to be playing some Scourge of War Gettysburg, which is one of the games which I have played on this channel dating back over 12 years to, they were like some of my earliest videos on this channel. I played a little bit of a role in Scourge of War Waterloo, didn't really play much of a role in Gettysburg, although some of the DLCs I was doing like some testing for. But we're going to be playing the base game, Scourge of War Gettysburg. The remastered version hit Steam recently. It doesn't say remastered, like their whole branding is really kind of weird. I'm not involved anymore, but like they have Scourge of War Remastered, which is Scourge of War Waterloo, and then they have Scourge of War Gettysburg, which is Scourge of War Gettysburg Remastered. I think they need to work on that personally. But in any event, we're going to be playing Gettysburg here. We're going to be playing a July 1st scenario around the anniversary of the battle. Last week, I'd been doing some streaming of Sid Meier's Gettysburg, of Scourge of War Gettysburg, and I did play this scenario on the stream a couple of, well, I played it on the stream, failed once, succeeded once, but like it was kind of a messy playthrough, so I figured why don't we go ahead and play McPherson's Ridge, because I do want to do some later scenarios, in particular some focus in and around July 3rd, but to do that you've got to win this particular scenario, because I believe it's because Heath's division plays a big role in some of those later scenarios, and there's carryover casualties in the game, and so you need to fight the first day's fight on McPherson's Ridge. So let's go ahead and do that. The live streams were a bit messy of a playthrough, weren't really designed for a VOD. So we'll go ahead and play this again and post this as a VOD. It's a 45-minute scenario. Second scenario in the game. You command Heath's division on July 1st at 10:30, right as the Iron Brigade's coming up. To score a major victory in this scenario, you need 4,000 points, which basically means you need to take the field to the west of McPherson's Hill or McPherson's Farm, and then you need to take McPherson's Farm itself or McPherson's Ridge. You're going up here at the moment with Heath's division, his lead two brigades, a little bit divided, broken up. You don't know what's in front of you yet. You've got potentially some brigades coming up, although I have seen, and I don't know if it's a bug or if it's just like a variant, because these kind of games often have variants. I don't know if it's like, hey, you know, Pettigrew's brigade may or may not come up. But in any event, you're going up that way. You're going to be facing off against Cutler's brigade, I believe, and then potentially the Iron Brigade as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. What is this game? It is a real-time tactical war game made 2008, 2009 or so. It was originally built for XP, so it was a 32-bit system, which meant there was a 3 gig limit on RAM. One of the big things with the remaster is that it is re-architected for 64 bits, which, while yes, these are still sprites and everything is not 3D and pretty, these flags are way less pixelated. These images of soldiers are way less pixelated than they were on the base version of the game, which is actually no longer for sale. But the base version of the game, actually, Scourge of War never was on, Scourge of War Gettysburg was never on Steam, so I shouldn't even see the base game. But in any event, Scourge of War Gettysburg used to be a really pixelated and kind of hard to look at, and at least with the 64-bit upgrade, I would say they were able to get rid of some of the compression, because these are all 2D sprites on a 3D map, but they were to get rid of some of the compression, because the key, in my opinion, the key attribute of a 32-bit game or system is that it is limited at 3 gigs of RAM, which means for a game like this, you know, one of the unique attributes for this game is that it allows you to play through Civil War battles at scale unlike anything else that has been made in sort of a ground level view. And so what this game has that others do not have is the scale. They made up for that, the fact that it's a 20-year-old engine, and the fact that, you know, things were compressed. It didn't look great. It looks better now than it did, you know, before the upgrades. I'm going to talk a little bit about the scenario here in a second, but I'm instantly trying to get my infantry forward here because, well, because they're going to get chewed to pieces if I don't. They're under canister fire. 2 of my regiments are under canister fire already, and so I don't want those regiments to get chewed up. I just hit the T key, which eliminates... oh, they're shooting at those guys over there, which eliminates trees just because it's easier to command that way. But let's go ahead and get down here. In fact, let's pause. So what do we get to do here? We are playing technically a role-playing game. In each one of these scenarios, you are a leader, an individual on the battlefield. We are General Heath. If we are killed, we lose the scenario no matter what happens. So that's something to consider. It is July 1st. So if we go ahead and we take a look at the map here, we are just to the northwest of Gettysburg. Along McPherson's Ridge, you can see our forces here. You can see the federal forces here. There's a courier carrying some courier carrying some messages here and here. In certain versions of the game, you can actually use those to issue your orders. So you can do courier orders rather than sort of point and click. I'm playing kind of the God mode. There's also a headquarters in the saddle mode, which we could potentially look at in a future scenario. Maybe we would play Rhodes scenario that way. But basically there's a version of the game where like you have to play as your character and you can only see what they could see from the saddle. So in theory we could be Heath and only see this because that's what Heath could see. Meanwhile, we've got Heath's division. We've got about 3,000 men on the field right now. We've got several artillery batteries back here along, is this Hare's Ridge? Near Hare's Tavern here, 3 batteries of artillery. I assume that's most of the division's artillery. We've got 2 divisions forward. We've got Archer's Brigade kind of up along the roadway here where Buford's brigade had been earlier in the day. You can see all the bodies on the ground here from the cavalry action earlier. That feels like maybe those casualties are a little bit heavier than they were historically. I think the Buford's position was sometimes in terms of the casualties taken a little bit overstated. But in any event, we've got Heath here. We've got Archer's brigade. This is General Archer over here. Every time I click, does it unpause? No, we've got General Archer over. He's got about 1,100 men. They're regulars. They're more experienced, but they're smaller brigades. You can see his 3 brigades to the south of this creek. One up here, which is kind of a blocking force for the Iron Brigade, which will probably come up this way. We've got 2 Union brigades in front of us at McPherson's Farm. We've got the 95th New York, and we have the 84th New York, which are in Zouwa uniforms. And then we've got one kind of a brigade, but a regiment. It's technically a battalion. It's called a battalion. It's 112 men. They've already taken 23 casualties in the short time this scenario has started F-pause things. But that's because they're in canister range of these 2 federal cavalry artillery pieces. We're trying to close the range. The goal will be to charge these guns and eliminate them because canister is the bane of existence of infantry. You can see these guys in the red and blue. Those are in Zouwa uniforms, the 84th New York. I don't know why the color bearer is wearing a traditional Union garb, but they are not. And then you've got these guys who are in blue, although you get a little bit of mixture of uniforms here. That's one of the other things the 64-bit and the RAM limit going up changes is that you can actually, you have the ability, let's unpause and pause here. You have the ability to have a lot more unit variety and uniform variety. And while I don't know that that is really built into the base game at all because they haven't really changed a lot of those core features yet, it certainly is something that modders are able to finagle with. So we've got Archer there on the right. On the left, we've got General Davis's division here, or brigade, sorry. He's got 1,600 men. He's got the 55th North Carolina to this northern edge of the map. We've got the 2nd Mississippi, and then we've got the 42nd Mississippi. I think that's Davis's whole brigade, but they're bigger regiments. They are volunteers in one of this group. Their experience level is volunteer, seasoned, and volunteer, whereas Archer's regiments are regular, and volunteer. So they're a bit more experienced with Archer's boys, if you will. One's a seasoned. Now we have the game currently paused. It is played in real time. You can compress up to ×4 speed, I believe. And we are trying to close with these 2 guns to the west of the, or I guess this is to the north of the road, and these 2 guns to the south of the road. Canister does lots of damage, so that's why we've paused here to give us time to go ahead and close the distance. First objective is over here. You can see this little eagle with the little blank shield. We got to get an officer close enough there to take the objective. And then once we take that objective, there will be another one that'll fire near McPherson's Farm itself. And that's the main way. You earn points by casualties inflicted and lose points by casualties lost. You also gain and lose points if you cause a unit to retreat or rout or things like that. So that's, you know, what have you here. So let's go ahead and unpause. We'll see if this battalion here can move at the double. They're going to end up in... they're They're getting volley fired, so these guys may not stand. They may retreat. Can we charge these guns? I don't want to charge the infantry. I just want to charge the guns. You can see we're 20 yards from this gun. We're about 100 yards from the infantry behind these fence lines. Different terrain gives different units sort of perks. All right, so they took that gun. See if we can take the next gun. Let's go ahead and pull these guys back at the double. So you can see we took this battery here, put 30 men on it, which are taken out of the Alabama battalions, so they lose 30% of their force. All right, so we took both of these guns in front of McPherson's farm, which is excellent because now we don't have to deal with the canister fire coming off of those. These boys did rout eventually after taking 42 casualties and also putting 60 of their own men on the guns. But in any event, oh, an officer was just killed. Did you see that horse rider just go there? Officers get killed in this game. That is something to be mindful of. But yes. All right, we drove these two guns off. We didn't capture them, but we did shoot at them as they rode off. And maybe we're inflicting some casualties here. It looks like we've inflicted none by the scoring there. We've got a regiment moving in here. Don't go quite that far. Don't do that. And I've ordered these guys to take command, which is sort of allowing me to micromanage these units. So that's something to consider as well. I'll explain that in a moment if you're not familiar with that. But these guys are taking a few casualties. These guns have pulled out most of the way up this very narrow sort of trench, and that being a unfinished railroad cut. Now these guns are probably going to rout here soon. They've already taken several casualties, but at least they're being denied to the Yanks. I could withdraw them fully. It'd be cool if we get a canister shot or two off. They're untrained because these are infantrymen servicing pieces. They don't have any horses to carry the guns away, so they'll probably just stay here till they rout. Looks like maybe they got one canister shot off. Dude, what kind of ammo do they have? Got 47 rounds. Does it tell me what? If we go to the stats screen here, you can see they've got a 3-inch ordnance rifle, 22 reload time. Gives me stats. They've got 200-yard canister, 2,000-yard shell or solid, 1,800 shell and shrapnel. They've got 47 rounds. It doesn't tell me what the breakout is, because usually I believe the game has like types of shells. You've only got like 9 or 10 canister rounds usually. But you can see they just fired one canister shot into that federal position on the fence line, inflicted a few casualties on them. And these other battalions are coming up out of the wood lines. Meanwhile, the 14th Tennessee has come south to engage the Zouaves from the rear, and then once we've got them engaged from the front, or I guess their new rear, that'll be good for us. I'm trying not to double quick the men too much because I don't want them too fatigued, although I suppose we could choose to double quick them. I am taking command a little bit more than I usually do, and you can see another canister round fired into this New York regiment. It looks like the Zouaves broke. Interesting. They did not hold long. All right, so the enemy guns withdrew further north up the cut. I don't love that we're going to expose our flank to them, but I think we need to try and quickly rout these boys. You've got the 2nd Mississippi in this field here. They're not actually engaged. They're at 148 yards, but I don't see them firing. Or maybe they just haven't hit anything yet. Okay. So the Zouaves broke them. This other, we can hear more canister fire. So these guys are actually retreating by recoil. You can see they're punching back each time they shoot, and now they're routed. That's okay. They're doing their job. All right, there you go. Federals just volleyed into us. My own boys look like they're going to be firing back here. Maybe these guys are too far down the cut to shoot back. I don't know why they're not shooting. They're loading. Are these guys gonna fire into their rear? I don't like exposing myself. Meanwhile, these guys are also coming up here. Let's reform them to assault the troops to the north. All right, there we go. Volleyed, fired off by the 2nd Mississippi. So they're firing into the front of these Federals here in the 147th. And then we've also got the 42nd Mississippi firing right into the enemy rear here. Not surprising, those Federal troops did not last long with 500 muskets firing into their rear and 470 firing into their front. Archer's Brigade has flanked and seemingly pushed back most of the enemy troops here. 2nd Wisconsin's coming up, so the Iron Brigade is formed up and coming forward. We need to try and push forward a little bit more aggressively, I think, toward McPherson's. Looks like we did fully rout the Zouaves. I don't see them reforming. I don't see any indication of Pettigrew's brigade coming up yet. I've had mixed results with that unit in this game. Sometimes they form up and come forward, and sometimes they don't, which I don't fully understand what the trigger is there. I assume it's just some kind of like scenario trigger where like 30% of the time you play the scenario, they come up, and 30% they don't. Now, keep in mind, this is just a 45-minute scenario on July 1st. So this is just a brief window of time in the morning. So just because they may or may not trigger here, it doesn't mean like the game's like, oh, they're not actually coming forward. It's just, do they come forward at that particular time, which I do not know. Oh, 3 more regiments of the Iron Brigade coming forward all here. You can see Solomon Meredith coming up through the field. So best bet is to get these boys while we can. And then let's try and take this position over here, because we do have to knock this position out first. So Davis's brigade needs to go evict these 2 Federal brigades, or regiments, sorry, from the field to the north of McPherson's farm. Davis, I've got him commanded here. And then once we evict these guys, the 2 remaining regiments in Cutler's brigade, then we can go ahead and potentially send his boys to help with the Iron Brigade, because it does look like the Federals are forming up in this field, and I don't know how well we can manage against the Iron Brigade with, frankly, lower experienced troops than I would like. 7th Tennessee fires their volley here. These Wisconsin boys could fire into our rear if they wanted. They're close. Not quite. They're 108. They're 85. Yeah. Oh, wait. There's a New York. The Zouaves didn't run away. All right. Well, I'm bringing artillery up to support. Still waiting on Pettigrew's boys. Let's bring the 3rd battery forward here if I can find their officer. We'll bring my character forward too. Okay, so we drove those boys off. Advance these boys to this fence line here. I thought maybe they'd stay in the woods on the right, because usually the Iron Brigade does. But they haven't. Shoot. I think I might have accidentally hit charge. Fortunately, they didn't. Now I have most of these units set to take command, which what that usually means is it turns the AI off. So the way the game works is it's a very AI sort of driven game where the AI is largely independent from the player. And so like if you're playing a Cork scenario, like later in the day on July 1st, there's a scenario where you command Yule's whole corps. Then what happens is you can issue orders. You can issue directives to your division commanders, advance, hold, reserve, those kind of things. You can give them orders on what you want them to attack or take. And then the AI will largely do that on its own. It will move units around. It will assault. and do a fairly competent job. If you want them to do something very specific and you want them to follow exactly your orders and kind of nothing else, you can hit that little flag icon that's called the take command button here, and then you can issue the minute tactical details like we are right now as we're moving these regiments around. That being said, for this particular scenario, since it's a bit of a smaller scenario, it's a division scenario, I feel confident and comfortable commanding individual regiments. Now the Black Hats look like they're moving forward, this is not what I wanted. I really need Pettigrew or Brockenborough, whatever his name is, to come up here, or I need these guns in place. I'm hunting for a flag for the commander here. Where is the commander of this unit? All right, we got these batteries coming up. We've got supply. We've got Heath. Am I missing him? Oh, he's hidden behind this building over here. All right, boys. All right, so Archer will probably die. He does historically anyway. So his brigade drove off those two first regiments. It looks like they've got one of their sort of Zouar regiments perhaps somewhat rallied. These guys are maybe firing at these. I don't know what the Federals are doing over there. Artillery's firing into our flank as we're like being enfiladed here. We're outside the range of canister at least, or maybe they're not even pointing at me. It's hard to tell, but they could like shoot bowling balls down our line. We're trying to drive these two Federal regiments off. We've got a pretty good line of fire going here. We'll wheel to the right a little bit just so it's a little prettier. One of the things this game does that other games do not do a good job or don't compare to is like the ability to get down like into the field and look at your line from this level and watch as the men load and reload. And it really gives you a sense of the battlefield here that like Ultimate General can't do this. Or doesn't. Sid Meier's Gettysburg doesn't even do this. It's really the only battlefield sort of level game like this. Iron Brigade seems content to hold us in our position here. They don't seem to want to assault us, which is good for me. Gives me time to bring these batteries of artillery up. Maybe Pettigrew firing was an unusual variant. Maybe the standard variant is for Pettigrew not to show up. So far, that certainly is the result. Those guns, they've got a new battery formed up back here. 4 guns back here. I think it's a new battery anyway. We got 3, 4. Yeah, I mean, there were only 2 guns originally. Another regiment's coming forward here. 6th Wisconsin of the Iron Brigade is coming forward here. Maybe they're waiting to assault until everybody gets into position. 2nd Wisconsin is moving forward a little bit. 14th Tennessee is out ahead of everybody. Maybe not the best position for them to be. Oh shoot. Don't do that. I want you to retreat. I want the 14th Tennessee to survive. So rather than engaging the far superior Iron Brigade's regiment here, which is larger than it and much more experienced, I'm going to order them to retreat so that if the enemy advances, they advance on our whole line. Looks like they may do that. And then once they've retreated, I'm going to move them to the right over here on this fence line near this wood to try and have one cohesive line along here. Retreating is always dicey because if your morale is bad, the men just may keep going, but I think we're okay. I think Archer just got hit. I don't see him anymore. Move some of these guns forward so they can sort of form in between the regiments and maybe fire canister without being the focus of the enemy assault. Those are both, I think those are ordnance guns. Yep, Archer's wounded or captured. I don't think he would have been captured where he was at, but wounded nonetheless. Hayward, his replacement, is right here. Getting him back in contact with his boys is an important thing to do. Meanwhile, you can see our line is opening up on these Federals as they advance. I don't like our odds, frankly. Let's bring this column formation, bring him in on the flank, on the double. We drove back one of the two regiments here on this objective here in the fields. And then we'll move these 500 troops forward to try and hit the Federals on the flank, maybe? As they try and go up and around us. Our line is not long enough to deal with this Federal assault. I need Pettigrew. I don't know why he's not showing up. Okay, boys, close the distance, please. Okay. It's actually a really bad position for the 42nd Mississippi to be in. Let's try and pull them back in a column formation, because if they advance up here and engage these Federals, these guys are technically on a fence line. Moving our guns forward here. This says they're blocked. They're flanked. How are they flanked? Oh, they're not. What are they blocked by? It should still be able to fire at someone. They're a little bit too close to the enemy position, though. They're taking fire, which was never my intention, so these guys just routed. And these guys are going to form up and extend the flank, I guess. All right. So we're gonna have to defeat the Iron Brigade, I guess, to take this objective, which is kind of gonna suck. This brigade, it doesn't matter. I took the flank, the left flank position at least. So Davis did his job. He got me 1,000 points for taking that objective, and he's still engaging the one remaining or two remaining regiments over there. But I haven't seen the Federals be this pesky before in this scenario. They don't usually reform when you rout their initial regiments. We pulled this artillery battery back, or position back, to try and avoid some casualties here. They're behind the fence. They're in the corn now. Looks like they did fire off some canister. I don't know if the gap isn't large enough between these regiments here for them to support, or what. This unit's getting shot up a bit. Or are they shooting at the artillery? Why are you moving in front of the position? No, fall back. You're gonna get yourself killed. This one gun, this 3-inch Ord rifle, firing canister into the enemy at point blank against these 2 regiments. Good. Okay, boys. Maybe you can fire into the flank regiment here. This regiment here should... We got a nice little gap along the roadway. We should be able to fire heavy canister at the 24th Michigan. I can move those guns forward. Meanwhile, these 4 guns back here are going to fire into the enemy just kind of over the head of our boys. They're not in canister range, but they're firing at the 24th. This flank regiment here, the 6 is in trouble, I think. Yeah, nice little canister shot there from Lieutenant Goodwin's artillery. 46 casualties or 47 casualties inflicted. Are these boys shooting? I'm not seeing smoke, which lends me to believe they are not shooting. They're on the fence, which is what I frankly want, but I don't want them in the open. But I also want them in range. Looks like they're like just outside range. Wow. All right, yeah, boys. Fire that canister at them. You see those little puffs in the middle? The little like chain sounding? That's when the canister's being fired. All right, enemy shooting at us now. I moved them off the fence into the open. But hopefully with the canister fire adding 500 muskets, we'll tell the tale, because I don't think my right flank is going to hold. We're inflicting more casualties on them than they on us, but not sufficiently enough, I don't think. Trying to advance along that fence line so we can fire to the federal flank here. Still no sign of reinforcements coming down the road. These guys rout? I don't even remember telling them to do anything. Another one of Davis's regiments. I may have just forgot about them. Alright, these guys are still... Are they actually engaged, or are they just taking fire? The 2nd Mississippi's done good work, but yeah, they're shooting a little bit. Let's close that distance a bit more. I'd like to be able to flank their main line, which would go a lot easier if I can get these 2 regiments over here to peel down on the federal artillery. Alright, we broke the Zouaves. Now, part of the problem here is I need a certain score. To get that score, I got to get closer to this objective so I can take it. Which I think I need to destroy the 24th Michigan, then I can move these boys up into that position. And do that. Because we need the, what, 4,000 to win? But I also don't want to get my command shot to ribbons. Or my own self killed. There's like a radius you have to be within the objective to get credit for it. Which right now the Federals are. 14th Tennessee's engaged at the 2nd Wisconsin. 7th Wisconsin for the 13th Alabama. 1st Tennessee with the 2nd Wisconsin. 7th Wisconsin for the 7th Tennessee, which is all great except for the fact that all those federal regiments are larger than my own. 24th Michigan is getting shredded, but not enough. I need more troops coming up here. These guys are coming up. How much time do I have? I've got like 20 more minutes. All right. The Michiganders broke. Let's advance the 42nd Mississippi. Advance some of these guns down the main road. I can fire into the flanks of these other federal regiments. Because again, I don't think I'll hold... Are these guys behind me? No. I don't think I'll hold here well. Especially these right flank regiments, they're losing more than they're getting. I don't love the idea of moving my own character that close. I think there was a small regiment out this way, but I don't see it anymore. Oh, there they are. The closer I am to enemy forces, the more likely I get killed. But I do now have credit. I am now close enough to McPherson's farm to get credit for that. So we will now get points for that. The artillery's firing some canister into the Federals here to help out. 36 casualties inflicted by this gun. 56, 58 by this gun. Nothing by those boys. What are you doing? All right, let's move our artillery so they can hopefully fire into the flank of these Federal troops over here. I think we'd be able to fire into the flank of the 7th Wisconsin now. Again, other than like War of Rights, FPS, like what other game, oops, lets you like look at a battlefield like this, right? Like, I don't know, it's just cool. It's cool to me. Maybe fire this way. I'm not sure what the line of sight is there. Maybe they can't actually see that way. All right, 76 casualties there, 85 here, 111 out of, oh, more than 50% casualties on this right flank regiment. Move the officer over that way. That the 14th Tennessee is going to rout, I think. Right, Davis's brigade routed the remaining Federals on the left, so he's going to move over toward McPherson's farm, where we are getting like 300 victory points per minute that we hold our position. Still annoyed that there's no Pettigrew up here yet. Why are you guys not shooting? Is the hill, is the slope? There's got to be like a terrain feature that's preventing you guys firing into the 7th Wisconsin's flank. I did just hear the rip of canister for someone. Right, these boys are coming over here. Now they're going to be close to these Federal guns. Got to be careful that we don't get canistered as well. These guys might even, I think they were a little bit further away. What are they doing? Trying to get the gun captured? They're going to fire double canister from like 2 yards away? These guys aren't even shooting at them, are they? Where are you shooting at? Right, if that's really who you're shooting at. Okay, you're retreating because you're limbering up because you're getting shot at, presumably. Someone fired. I didn't see where the smoke was, but someone just fired point blank canister at him. I really am nervous about... I'd like to move the 42nd onto the federal flank, but that'll expose them to the flanking fire of these guns. Yeah, it's got to be a terrain. There's got to be like a little lip over here where they can't actually see. They didn't take any casualties, but that one unit's retreating. All right, these guys just fired canister. So this Wisconsin regiment here, the 7th, is taking canister from at least 2 guns. All right, these guys are going to move toward these guns over here, engage them. Well, where are they retreating to? They already got fought out, I guess. They're all pretty tired up here in the north, I suppose. As long as our troops hold, but our right flank regiment routed. 14th Tennessee, they were taking a lot of casualties. Looks like 2 more federal regiments are moving up. We got a supply wagon up here bringing additional ammo and such. Mississippi is going to come up. Are these guys actually shooting? I don't see smoke. They're in range, but I don't see indication they're actually shooting. In any event, the 7th Wisconsin is starting to pull back. I think they lost too many casualties under the fire of those 2 guns. 7th Wisconsin is still there fighting it out. They're not actually shooting at anyone. Add another 150 muskets to the fight, and maybe you'll get them to withdraw. Looks like actually we can't even see them anymore. They withdrew. 19th Indiana's coming up here. All right, enemy guns are pulling out under 500 muskets or 400 muskets firing at them. They didn't even get effective canister fire on us. Good job, boys. Drove them back. We left. Get a better firing arc. Oh, don't do that. And extend the artillery to the edge of this line here. Yeah, commanding gun by gun in a core battle, not possible in this game, but I mean possible, but not recommended, I suppose, would be the more accurate statement. Right, we're up to 3,600. What do we need again? 4,000. We got about 10 minutes left. That should be doable as long as nobody breaks here. These guys are resting. Okay. At least we got what? 200 and 100, so about 400 men firing at the 2nd Wisconsin. I believe it's over here. Sixth Wisconsin is coming up. Next to the 7th. Okay. How many guns are kind of on our flank too. I don't like that we're going to be giving our flank away, but I'll move them to the fence line to hopefully minimize that. Nice little canister shot there into the enemy line. There we go. 2nd Wisconsin routed. That should take the pressure off these flank regiments of Archer's Brigade. They don't even have anyone to shoot at now. Artillery, and then the 2nd Mississippi getting along the flank of the Indiana regiment here's driven it back. They'll shoot at them all the while they retreat. Meanwhile, the 6th is pushing itself into an interesting position. Are we not on the objective point anymore? I think some of that's a numbers game too. At least in part. I think it's based on how many troops you have versus the enemy has related to the objective. Alright, back on the objective here. "47 yards, boys." That is too close. They've got at least double your number. Granted, we've got 42nd on their flank. Can we not charge? They're weary. Let's charge at the 11th Mississippi. They're fresh. So they're getting hit by the enemy from the front. Everybody charge. Everybody go forth. Oh, they're retreating. If we get on them enough and prevent their retreat, they may surrender, but I suspect that won't happen here. It looks like we pretty much routed the whole enemy force. I don't know that they have anything left of note. So the Iron Brigade routed, Cutler's Brigade routed, and McPherson's Hill and Ridge both taken by 11 o'clock. That should set us up nicely for a further push on Seminary Ridge. Now the scenarios aren't dynamic quite like that, but I think at this point we'll go ahead and speed the time up. I don't think there's any enemy force that I can see. There will be some artillery dueling going on, but I don't think there's any enemy force of note. I think we got about 5 minutes left in the fight as the artillery sort of pounds away. But I think a pretty cleanly executed little victory there for us. At least I assume it'll be a victory unless my character gets hit by some shrapnel or something. But should just be here a couple more minutes, a little bit more milking of the score, if you will. We didn't even need those 2 brigades, which didn't come up, those laggards. But it's okay. We saw Yankee Doodle off without too much fuss. Wrecked 2 of the best brigades in the Union Army. Although the Iron Brigade didn't suffer casualties that'll prevent them from fighting the rest of the day. I don't think Cutler did either, but still a good result. Looks like they're already coming back. Looks like they're moving back toward us, but I don't think they'll make another assault in the next minute. So maybe they'll reform up here near the seminary and more of the First Corps will come up. And I mean, that's all hypothetical because we don't actually fight that battle next. Near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, our forces met the enemy in battle and achieved a major victory, brother. Reports are just arriving by telegram to this office as the fight continues, but there's a long road to march before we see the end of the struggle. All right, if we go to the casualties, Meredith's boys, 306 casualties inflicted on us. They lost 795 out of their original strength of 1,800 men. That's about, you know, a little bit more than a third. They leave with 900 men. You can look at individual regimental. Oh wait, that was just the 19th Indiana? No, that was the whole brigade. Okay. 19th Indiana specifically loses 34 men, or sorry, loses 74 men, inflicts 34 of their casualties. 9 are killed, 64 are wounded, 1 is missing. So some of those wounded could be walking. 24th Michigan loses 247 men, only inflicts 21. It's a bad day for them, 32 killed. 2nd Wisconsin not coming up here. 6th Wisconsin, 21 inflicted, 107 lost. 7th Wisconsin, 112 inflicted, 184 lost. Oh, well, let me click the 2nd Wisconsin. Some kind of bug. Cutler's Brigade loses 607, only inflicts 265. So a pretty inefficient day. They're at under 900 men now. The 56th Pennsylvania absolutely wrecked. 42 casualties inflicted, 145 lost out of a total of 254. They only have, what, how many men left? $107. 84th New York. I don't know why they won't click either. I don't know, some kind of glitch. In any event, what about our boys? Heath's boys inflicted 1,416, lost 822. Pretty good result there. Pettigrew didn't engage. Archer's boys did. The Alabama battalion was basically routed. Second Mississippi inflicted 212, lost 90. Artillery did a good job. Marin's battery, 386 casualties inflicted, 22 men lost. 13 inflicted and 0 lost from Moore's. Lewis, 115 inflicted, 12 lost. Norfolk battery, 48 inflicted, 0 loss. Wallace, 148 inflicted, 14 loss. So I think the real balance is that artillery, and bringing those guns up for canister fire, I think was a sound choice. Okay. So that's the end of the battle. And the victory for us. I don't know why I keep clicking to return to the fight. So now that we won that victory, the next fight, presumably, would be Oak Hill, commanding Rhodes Division, which would be an hour-long scenario, but we're not going to do that today. That was our look at Scourge of War, Gettysburg, the divisional scenario, McPherson's Ridge from the Confederate point of view. There's 20 scenarios, including a hypothetical Longstreet goes right on July 3rd. And then there's also, what, like 10 cavalry scenarios for the cavalry field, which maybe we'll look at one of those. I don't know that I've ever really looked at that on stream before, so I suppose we could do that. But in any event, that's going to do it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Scourge of War, Gettysburg by NorbSoftDev. No longer, it's now self-published, and Scourge of War Gettysburg was not on Steam until recently. So Waterloo was on Steam for a long time when they were with Slytherin. When they left Slytherin, it was dropped for a while till the remaster went up. Gettysburg was never on Steam, and it is now. So, but yeah. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer. Once again, and these games are all on sale till the 10th. I do get a very small cut if you get Waterloo. I don't get anything for Gettysburg, so keep that in mind. Gettysburg's a little bit more expensive. I would probably lean toward Waterloo, my bias aside, just because the engine it's built off of is the modifications they made for Waterloo, whereas I think they ported the Gettysburg game over, which all I think that means is right now they're working on more bugs to quash on that than they are on Waterloo. But I prefer the Civil War fighting, actually, so I guess it depends on what you like. But like, I enjoy Gettysburg more because I'm not a big building combat person, and the Waterloo games have a lot of that. But anyway, guys, and Waterloo's under $10 until July 10th. Gettysburg is a bit more expensive. I don't know why Gettysburg's more expensive for whatever reason. I have no insider knowledge. I don't know if there's some contractual or some reason there, but I have no information on that. I have no idea. Maybe it was a bigger team. Again, I wasn't really involved in Gettysburg, so I'm not really sure the logic on the pricing. But yeah, anyway, that's enough of that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'm out. Bye-bye.